Truman.
Tell me everything.
When it comes to exploring the glossy lives of the Manhattan elite class, several movies such as The Gossip Girl and The Great Gatsby have served this purpose. Feud, Capote versus the Swans is another telltale of the lavish ways of the super elite class of New York that questions the blurry line between creative freedom and gossiping. Let's hear more on this Tom Hollander starring show and unpack the true story behind it. The much-anticipated second installment of the Ryan Murphy anthology series, Feud, Capote versus the Swans, centers on the life of Truman Capote and his group of socialites, whom he referred to as his swans, ultimately betraying them by producing a barely veiled fictionalization of their life and disclosing their most personal secrets. Capote met and trusted these duennas after getting hooked and fascinated by them. The publication of a passage from Capote's intended magnum opus, Answered Prayers, essentially ended his relationship with his swans, exiled him from the upper society he so dearly loved, and plunged him into a downward spiral of self-destruction from which he would never fully emerge. But who was Truman Capote really? And which glamorous New York women were included in his circle? Why did they fall out so dramatically? And what was the result? Who's starring in the series? Discussions on the project started in April 2022, when Deadline reported that Gus Van Sant would be directing the second season of Feud. John Robin Bates, a two-time Pulitzer Prize finalist, would write all 8 episodes and serve as showrunner. The series' teaser, sex, money, and endless invention gives viewers a decent idea of the glitzy drama. It is based on Lawrence Lemer's best-selling book, Capote's Women, A True Story of Love, Betrayal, and a Swan Song for an Era. There has also been a lot of interest in the A-list cast. Star of White Lotus Tom Hollander portrays the prolific novelist who turned into a pariah after disclosing the appalling facts of his influential social circle. Demi Moore as Ann Woodward, Naomi Watts as Babe Paley, Diane Lane as Slim Keith, Callista Flockhart as Lee Radziwill, Molly Ringwald as Joanne Carson, and Chloe Sevigny as CZ Guest are joining him. The first 2 episodes of the 8-part series premiered on FX and were streamed on Hulu on 31st January earlier this year. 1 episode dropped weekly after that. The series is also available on Disney in the UK. The series begins with Babe Paley confessing to Capote that her husband is having an affair, and Capote shocks her and a group of friends with an outrageous story that Ann Woodward has murdered her husband. Woodward confronts Capote, but he is unmoved. When Capote publishes an extract of Answered Prayers, many recognize it as a thinly veiled attack, especially when Woodward kills herself and the Swans begin to set in motion a plan of revenge. Who was Truman Capote? Truman Capote was an American novelist, screenwriter, playwright, and actor who was born in New Orleans in 1924. His books have become classics. 2 of the best-known are Breakfast at Tiffany's, perhaps better known for the Audrey Hepburn film adaptation, and In Cold Blood, which many believe helped spark our interest in true crime. He gained the most notoriety from the latter, which he achieved with the support of his close friend and fellow writer Harper Lee. In addition to his unusual style and high-pitched voice, Capote was well known for his offbeat style and fabrications. He frequently claimed to know people, like Greta Garbo, that he had never met. His social circle included writers, reviewers, business moguls, philanthropists, Hollywood and theater stars, monarchs, and members of upper society. He also had a penchant for alcohol and drugs. A long-standing rivalry between him and writer Gore Vidal contributed to his public character, leading Tennessee Williams to lament, "You would think they were running neck and neck for some fabulous gold prize." Capote was a significant influence despite never supporting the gay rights movement because of his honesty about his homosexuality. And who were his swans? Following the release of In Cold Blood in 1966, Capote became increasingly in demand and cemented his status as one of the jet-set glitterati. He became close to a group of women he referred to as his swans, who were his confidants and supporters and who went with him to parties, cruises, and international travel. All immensely rich, beautiful, and regulars on the best-dressed list, they were all often seen out with Capote at New York events, despite shuttling between homes in the Hamptons and Venice by way of Paris. The headlines were once dominated by Swans' CZ Guest, a cover girl and muse to Andy Warhol and Salvador Dali, rode a white horse into the ballroom at the Waldorf Astoria, decades before Bianca Jagger attempted the same stunt at Studio 54 in 1955. Pamela Harriman was the U.S. ambassador in Paris before she wed the son of Winston Churchill. Even Harriman's husband, Slim Keith, who is recognized for having introduced Lauren Bacall to the film industry, had a spouse named Leland Hayward, who moved away from Harriman in 1960. Capote and his swans lived in the limelight of New York's elite society. In 1966, Capote hosted the now legendary masked ball, the Black and White Ball, at the Plaza Hotel. Considered the event of the season, it cemented his status as one of the city's best-loved socialites. Wait a minute. What was their feud all about? Capote has been collecting details for a tell-all novel called Answered Prayers through his jet-set social life. He had been preparing the book since 1958, but it was continually put off until he allowed Esquire to publish 4 chapters of the incomplete work in 1975 and 1976. The first to emerge was Mogave's standalone short tale that was well praised. However, Capote's social suicide began with La Côte Basque 1965, his second story. Capote's Swans, who were included in the book sometimes under pseudonyms but also by their real identities, were estranged from him by this much-discussed betrayal of trust, which was partly based on the dysfunctional personal relationships of Capote's friends. The chapter revealed the inner workings of New York's elite, including anything from rumors about Princess Margaret and the other members of the British royal family to a portrayal of Jackie Kennedy Onassis as unrefined, exaggerated. Covering adulterous liaisons, Capote even charged ex-showgirl Anne Woodward with her husband's murder. According to rumors, Anne Woodward committed suicide by cyanide after receiving an early warning about the chapter's publishing and contents. Capote experienced nearly total social isolation as a result of the Swans' refusal to communicate with him in the future. He claimed not to have expected the outrage the release would bring, which is reported to have driven him to new heights of drug and alcohol abuse. All literature is gossip, Truman declared following the outburst in Playboy magazine. What in God's green earth is Anna Karenina or War and Peace or Madame Bovary, if not gossip? So what happened next? Throughout the late 1970s, Capote was regularly in and out of drug rehabilitation centers, and the public was regularly informed about his various breakdowns. When talk show host Stanley Siegel interviewed Truman Capote in 1978, he was so drunk that he said he had been awake for 2 days. "I'll kill myself." Without meaning to, he stated. The live broadcast garnered national attention. Following his driver's license being revoked in 1980 due to speeding close to his Long Island home and a hospitalization requiring hallucination-based seizure, Capote adopted a somewhat isolated lifestyle. During his infrequent periods of clarity, he maintained endorsing Answered Prayers as almost finished and purportedly organized a recreation of the black and white ball. At the age of 59, Capote passed away in Los Angeles in 1984 from a liver illness that was worsened by alcoholism. Upon hearing of his death, Gore Vidal famously pronounced it a wise career move. The story has been dramatized for the screen before, most recently in the 2021 documentary The Capote Tapes and 2005's Capote with the Oscar-winning Philip Seymour Hoffman in the title role. The Daily Mail said this new series focuses on the fallout from the expose based on Lawrence Lemur's book Capote's Women, A True Story of Love, Betrayal and a Swan Song for an Era. It stars Tom Hollander as the writer and Naomi Watts as Babe Paley. Are you fascinated by his life story to watch the feud Capote versus the Swans? Tell us in the comments. Also, thank you for sticking up till the end, and if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more amazing content like this.